Time for our GMC Sierra tweet of the night. I know Pony's going to like this one. It's from Adam Schefter from ESPN. And the Pittsburgh Steelers have now signed their first-round pick, Kenny Pickett, per source. That was announced today and made official. Also tweeted by Adam Schefter, he's reporting 4 years, Pony, $14 million plus, $7 million of that, $7.4 million of that in the signing bonus. His cap hit for this season, about $2.5 million. I want to kind of move it in this direction, too. Mike Tomlin was a guest on the Pivot podcast with Ryan Clark, Fred Taylor, and also Channing Crowder. They asked him about the opportunity to kind of start a new chapter without Ben Roethlisberger, and he said he was excited about being uncomfortable about the situation, knowing that he's going to have a new guy under center leading this team. My question to you, I think I know what the answer is going to be, but what's the exciting element for you as far as this next chapter at the quarterback position?
Well, it really is the great now cheat code in the NFL, and that is a really good young quarterback with the new rookie scale salary. Is that before, back in the day, before 2011, Ben Roethlisberger could come in, and if he had a great agent, he could hold the Steelers over the barrel and command big money. Sam Bradford, Matthew Stafford, those guys, when they were the number one overall picks, were coming in, and they were immediately from day one two of the highest paid quarterbacks in the entire NFL, two of the highest paid players in the NFL, without ever playing a down. And so they changed that. They spread the wealth around with this new slotted system. And so if Kenny Pickett is good, which he will be, you're going to have a quarterback $14 million for 4 years. I mean, that allows for you, especially with the way the salary cap is going to shoot up in the next couple of years, you really have the opportunity to spend like you never have before in free agency and go after guys that can build and help you build a complete roster, not just a quarterback that is asked to carry a team, but a team that's great all the way around. And I think we saw evidence of that with the Bengals last year, getting to a Super Bowl. And I think we're going to see the Steelers get back to playing at a very high level very soon because they have the quarterback now that can get them there, and he's at such a cheap salary.
I've been saying this, Pony, for weeks on end now since the draft came and went. They now have 3 quarterbacks under contract at a fraction of what some teams are paying their starter. That is such an advantage to this team right now that it really helps them as far as getting other areas taken care of with this team. And I'll mention this too. You're talking 4 guys now that could be impact players in this offense in a couple years. Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth, Kenny Pickett, George Pickens, all of them first or second round picks in back-to-back seasons. That's how big this becomes when you're bringing guys in that could be impact guys, and they're coming in at such a low salary cap hit. Let's go to the phone lines. We got Fred in North Huntington. Fred, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks,
Fred.
Hey, I had a question. How you doing, Andrew? I had a question about the Steelers' offensive line. I respect Bob Papiani a lot, believe me. But he had made a comment a while back about saying that Kendrick Green has to get better, and he expects him to get better this year. But in my opinion, for the Steelers' offensive line to have a really good year, to be an upgrade this year, I think Kendrick Green has to be a backup. I really do. When you look at the guys they brought in, I guess the question I have for you and Andrew is, if you had to pick a starting 5, and I realize right now some of these battles are going to be determined later on in camp and after preseason, but if you had to pick a starting 5 right now, Andrew, what would your lineup be?
Pony, take the snap. This is you.
All right, well, then I would go more at left tackle, not because I love him, but because I have to. There's not a plan B there. I'd go Dotson at left guard. I would go Mason Cole at center, but I will say I'm not sold on him as a starting center. I think that was one of their more questionable decisions in free agency. The guy has been a backup for the most part with Arizona and Minnesota. So honestly, I think Hassenauer is at least adequate, but I'll go with Cole for now. Then I would say Daniels and unfortunately Chooks. $10 million for him. I'm still stumped by that decision to bring him back at that cost, that price this offseason. But I'm with Fred. I mean, that offensive line again this year has a chance to derail their season. And if that's the reason why they're tentative to put Kenny Pickett in the lineup, if that's the real reason, I would understand it because the line is different. It's younger. it can't be much worse, but I don't know how much better it's going to get this year, Josh, based on the talent that they have on that line right now.
For the record, I'm taking the exact same 5 that you are, but my question isn't about the 5 that are there. My question is, what happens when one of those 5 get hurt? What happens, especially if it's Dan Moore Jr. or Chooks? Who's the next guy on the outside of that offensive line? Who replaces one of those 2 guys? And who steps in, and are they ready to step in and fill the void? I'm not worried about the starters. I'm worried about the depth behind them. And yeah, to Palm's credit, talking about Kendrick Green, he's going to have to be better. If he has to be one of those guys that takes up more than one interior spot as maybe a swing interior guy as a backup, he better be ready when they're inserted in there, because one of these guys, if they go down, he's going to be needed. And Pony, let's be honest here. How many times in a 17-game season do you expect this team to have their starting 5 guys up front? I don't think it's going to be the whole season. There's going to be times when you got to fill a guy in there, and that's where my bigger concern is.
Yeah, I think the whole line in general, from the person that's coaching them to the players that they have assembled, Daniels were acting like he's a great player. He wasn't in Chicago. He was played out of position a lot. I think he has the potential to be really good, but he honestly hasn't done it on a week-in, week-out basis. We're hoping he does, but that's all it is. It's guesswork. He has not proven himself to be a good offensive lineman yet. He has the makings of one. He probably has better pedigree than any of the other offensive linemen that they have based on the tape he's put out in the NFL so far. But he's not a finished product. He's not a slam dunk to be a great player. Moore, I thought, the only way you come out of last season feeling good about him is if you look at it through the graded curve.
Yep.
Where you're like, oh, wow, for a 4th-round pick and a rookie thrown in there, he didn't do a bad job, but he wasn't great. You expect him to get better, I suppose. So it just, they made changes to their line, although nothing in the draft, but nothing that screams to me that it's going to all of a sudden go from a great weakness to a unit of strength for them this year, Josh.
I totally agree with your point about Dan Moore. That's the thing that bothers me, because by the end of the season, Dan Moore Jr. was your most consistent offensive lineman in this group by the end of the year. And I don't know if that was as much of a good thing for Dan Moore or if it was a bad thing for the rest of the offensive line. I think that's a really good thing worth pointing out. We got to take another break. We'll wrap up when we come back. Stick around.